Hey, this is the Oxendine Law Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Oxendine, along with my co-host, Christine Palmer. And we are here to tell you what matters most and everything you need to know to protect your interest in a divorce case, from complex custody cases all the way down to your high-asset divorce. We'll cover it all. So let's get right into it. Today, we want to share some of our top tips for navigating a divorce. We have handled literally hundreds, thousands yet?
Possibly.
We're close?
It would have to be. We would have to be.
Maybe thousands?
Thousands.
More than hundreds and thousands. Thousands of clients' cases. And while no two cases are the same, there are things that you need to know that makes your case unique. And there's things that we always recommend to make the process a little bit easier, more streamlined, and with the best result. So let's get straight into it. All right. What do we recommend as our top tips? I'm going to start by saying, and I dealt with this earlier today, know what to expect going into the case. I see too many clients that come in the door and they are micromanaged and they're controlled. They have no idea what the finances are. They don't know how much money they have in the bank account. They don't even have access to the bank account.
Right.
And now it's time to get divorced. Of course, it's their spouse's idea. And the spouse comes to them and says, hey, I hired a lawyer for us. They're going to draft up a fair agreement. I promise you this is going to be better than what you're going to get if you go to court. And if you don't sign it, then I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And they start threatening them, saying, if you don't sign or if you don't cooperate with me and do this the way I want,
right,
then you're not going to get anything. I'm going to take this away from you. How many times have you seen that?
Yes. The number one biggest tip is get educated. Also, second part of that, take your attorney's advice. If I've told you one thing and your soon-to-be ex-husband has told you another, listen to me. Do not listen to him. He did not go to law school. He doesn't do this for a living. But you're right. Just get the education. I tell my clients all the time, probably going to tell you too much, but that's because education is power. So when you do encounter him and it is 2 a.m. and you can't reach me, and you're in the middle of a fight and he has you scared to death that you're going to lose your kids and lose your house and you're going to be ruined living in a box under a bridge, you will be able to say, that's not true because in Georgia, this is an equitable division state. And I already know. And when you hit them with knowledge, not just tears, those bullies back down.
And why do they make those threats? Right? It's hard when you're emotionally intertwined in the situation. You can't see through the forest because of the trees. But the only reason this person is threatening you is because they know.
Correct.
They know that unless they can force you to do what they want you to do, there's no way in hell they get it. And so all they can do is intimidate you and threaten you and try and persuade you, really force you to do what they want to do.
And how often do you hear them say, my attorney said I can? And if your client is confident in your advice and has listened, we'll say, well, that's not true. And you don't have to say no because my attorney said, just that's not true. But you have to teach your clients what is true and what is not true so that when they're hit with this stuff and those personal arguments, because you're right, that's what the bullies do. They seclude you away from the attorneys, away from the family, away from anyone else, get you one-on-one and say, I'm really doing this for you.
Yeah, right.
I'm really doing this for you. I don't want to see you living in a box under a bridge.
Please, give me a break.
Right.
And let me go ahead and spill the beans. If you have somebody that approaches you, your spouse, to say, hey, I hired an attorney for us, guess what? That attorney is not for the both of you. That attorney is just their attorney, and their attorney is going to draft things most favorable to their client, not for you. And so when Christine says...
Because we do too.
Yeah, we do. And I mean, and it's always... I almost feel a little bad sometimes when we do it, if I'm being honest, because there are people out there that literally will just come in and sign. They don't get their own attorney. They might not even know what all the assets are. And we draw it up pretty. We put a nice bow on it. It looks like it's a great deal. They sign it. And they've left so much money on the table. I hate to say that on our podcast, but it's true.
Well, it is true because in that situation, it's just the other spouse not participating. We're not taking advantage of anything. I would have never done anything that was anywhere near outside of the bounds of law. But if you have an advocate on the other side, we're within check. So like every case that could settle could be anywhere. You got 10-1. You're going to settle somewhere between a 6 and a 4. 6 best for our client, 4 best for them. If they're not participating, we're never going to get to a 5. Why would I go past 6? if they're not participating at all.
That's right.
So that's how you get to the 5 from coming in from 10 to 1.
And that's why you have to be educated and participate in the process. Always, 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 always get your own representation.
Yes.
Meet with an attorney. That attorney will give you, a good attorney will give you a clear roadmap of how the process works, what you can expect as far as the outcome is concerned, and let you know what a fair deal really looks like.
Right.
Do not sign anything before you have your own consultation with your own attorney. Do not even commit to anything. How many times have we seen it where somebody approaches their spouse, right, and they make an offer, and the spouse says, sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
And then they change their mind, so they go and meet with an attorney after they've already committed. They go back home and say, I've actually changed my mind.
Yeah.
Now, everybody's mad.
Yes.
You've reneged. You've changed your mind. You're going back on what you said you would do. And now,
Yeah.
and now the negotiations are that much more difficult to get the case resolved.
Right.
Or, God forbid, we see this happen sometimes too, you actually sign something. And then you come to us after the fact, after you've already signed something.
Right.
Let me tell you, folks, once you've signed something, there's ways to get out, but it is extremely hard. And how many people have we had to look at and say, I'm sorry, if you'd come to me before you signed this, we could have gotten you out of this. But now that you've signed it, we may not be able to do anything to help you.
Signatures are powerful.
Next thing, and this kind of goes for the business owners, be financially prepared. And this goes also for non-business owners. So I will let you take the angle of the person that doesn't know anything about the finances and talk about what they need to do before they even meet with their divorce attorney or before they file for divorce to be prepared. But what if you're the business owner, right?
Right.
So if you're a business owner and your business has value, you're potentially looking at having to buy your spouse out. Or if you're smart enough, maybe you can avoid that altogether. So what do I mean by that? It may make sense to go ahead and meet with an attorney way before you even think about filing for divorce and get a valuation done so that you know the true value of your business going into the divorce. And then perhaps we make a settlement offer early on that looks attractive, but you know that it may be less than what the value of the business is actually worth. And we can negotiate a deal based on the information that you know about the true value of your business, whereas your spouse may be getting bought out for a lower number, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So that would be a smart thing to do as a business owner. Another thing I think business owners need to think about is if you're in a business that's actively doing contracts and deals, you may want to decide and plan the timing of when you take on a new project or a new deal, right? Because let's say you've got this big project that's coming down the pike and you're going to make a lot of money off of it. Well, if you go ahead and complete that project before you file the divorce case, that money's earned during the marriage. That's getting split up during the divorce. If it's a long-term client or a client that's willing to wait, they don't need this done immediately, perhaps you can go ahead and get the divorce finalized and put that deal or that project off down the road. And now we don't have anything to divide from that deal and that person gets to keep it all.
Right. In the interest of fairness, Dylan and I had a case recently where our client was a partial owner of multiple companies. So this is about to be super complicated, right? Because this is how much does he own of these companies? And then how much are the companies worth? So how much is his portion of those? And then after that, how much could potentially even be liquid? Because probably none of it, if he's just a partial owner. We knew early on this is a contentious divorce when it comes to the parties. Like if he says the sky's blue, she's going to swear under oath in front of a deputy with her hand on the Bible that it's purple. We were able to talk with opposing counsel and hire a joint expert. So we took away that back and forth because experts are experts. Nobody's going to come in. Nobody's going to risk their license, their certificates, all of their hard work and the way they feed their families to fraudulently value a business, fraudulently appraise a home, none of those things. But just like anything else, there's a value, there's a range. So what could have happened was we hire an expert who puts a value in the range favorable to our client. They have an expert. Now the value range is favorable to their client. So the only way to move that is to meet in the middle. And these were the kind of people that there was no meeting in the middle. That leaves us preparing for court and the judge trying to figure out how to meet in the middle, which is what a judge is going to do. They have a respected expert saying it's A and a respected expert saying it's C. They're just going to go with B and put it in the middle. But we were able to successfully navigate away from all of that by getting a joint expert. And Seth Murphy looked at all of it and just said, I think this is the closest thing to a true value. So then we're all at least using the same numbers when we're negotiating at the table.
Yeah, I love it when we can join experts. It makes the case so much quicker. It's cheaper too. And usually when we have an expert, that means somebody owns a business. you can write off that expense.
Right.
You're the business owner.
That's right.
You can write off the expense of the joint expert. So why not do a joint expert? Save the money arguing over the final valuation. Because like you said, if it's a joint expert, they're giving you a true value.
They are.
What more do you want?
Right.
So that's perfect. And if you're the spouse that's not the business owner, let's say you're not in the know on the finances, what should you be doing before you file for divorce? Right. I would suggest you should be paying more attention, right?
Well,
now,
there's that.
There's some certain cases, we talked about it at the beginning of this episode, where you're controlled or you're micromanaged and you don't have access to that. But you still have probably signed a joint tax return. Why not go meet with your accountant and get a copy of that return and get copies of that accountant's file and see what statements were provided to that accountant to prepare the tax return. Look at the disclosures and the exhibits and the schedules that are attached to the tax returns to see what assets are listed. Hey, when that stuff starts coming in the mail for, the 3 or 4 months before the divorce is filed, maybe look at those statements, take pictures of them. That way, when you file for divorce and we've asked the other side to produce copies of all the financial statements, and they leave one out, they're hiding something because you took a picture of what came in the mail 2 months earlier.
Sure. And don't forget to just ask them. Just because you've never been privy in the past, if you start asking, one of two things is going to happen. They're either going to tell you, and then at least you know something, or they're going to get real squirrely, and they'll probably mess up, because they usually do. They're going to start working so actively to hide things that things are going to pop out. But also, if you come and meet with us and you said, hey, I asked him, and he was annoyed, but he said, basically, we have this and this and this. Okay. I'm not going to say I believe him 100%, but I'm closer than he completely shut me down. He said, why are you asking? That's not you don't need to know that. His attitude or her attitude is going to give us a lot of insight too. If they want to know, why do you want to know? Why are you asking? Probably there's something in there that they don't really want you privy to.
Exactly right. Another helpful tip. Let's talk about kids. All right. We'd be remiss if we don't talk about helpful hot tips as it relates to kids. I have kids. I've got 3 kids. I've got 3 boys, 13, 12, and 7. Christine, you are smarter than me, and you did not take the plunge.
I did not.
But it's a true statement. With being a parent comes great responsibility, and it's great power. And what do I mean by that? Your kids look up to you, and it's not just you. It's both parents.
Right.
They need both parents. They want to know that both parents are stable and strong and have their back and are looking out for their best interest. And the biggest thing that absolutely makes me so mad, and I know it makes all family law attorneys mad, and especially judges, is when parents during a divorce case start unnecessarily involving the kids.
Sure. Using them as pawns. Yep.
Using them as pawns.
Messages back and forth, or just, I'm mad at you, so I'm not going to let you have them. There's no court order in place yet, so no, you're not getting them this weekend because they're upset with something totally unrelated to their children.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or even worse, talking negatively about the other parent to the kids.
Yeah, nothing pisses off a judge faster than that disparaging remarks between, parents in the presence of the children.
And it drives me crazy because the kids, they don't want to be part of the process. How many times have you seen, all right, so let's talk about guardian ad litem very quick. A guardian ad litem appointed in a case. That's when you have essentially an attorney that's appointed to look out for the best interests of the children in a divorce. And you got this long, drawn-out custody battle, and mom's talking bad about dad to the child. Dad's talking bad about mom, using the child as pawns, dangling carrots, making promises. If you will agree that you want to live with me, then I'll do this for you. And then by the end of the case, the guardian looks at the child and says, what do you really want? And they say, I just want this to be over.
Yeah, I want my parents to stop fighting. That's about probably the number one. I want my parents to stop fighting. In fact, I had one recently, and a guardian told me it broke her heart because the boy said, I just want my mom to be happy again, because it was one of those, dad in that case could hide it better. Mom wears her emotions on her sleeve, her heart on her sleeve. So he comes home from school and she's in the kitchen crying, and she wipes the tears and she freshens it up and says, nothing, don't worry about it. And I think that was the biggest thing was she didn't realize, because she doesn't involve the kids. She doesn't talk to them, but just that little slip, he sees it. And that was his answer. I just want my mom to be happy again.
Yeah, life is so much easier if you just get along as parents, co-parent effectively, always do what's best for your kids. Kids are happier, they're more successful in their relationships going forward. And the parents, even as like spouses, you're happier. Why do you want to live in that misery forever? Right. Here's the best example I can give, and I actually heard this from a judge, and it will always stick with me. She looked at the parties at the end of a very contentious custody case, and she said, you know what? When your child graduates from high school and they're in their college dorm and they're putting up their pictures in their dorm, they want to see one graduation picture with the mom on one side and then dad on the other. They do not want to have to put out one picture of my graduation with dad and then a separate picture sitting somewhere else on the desk that's got a separate cap and gown picture with the mom.
Right.
And doesn't that sum it up?
Right. That's it.
That was so good that we ran out of time to talk about our reasons for divorce. So we will cover that next time. That was some of our hot tips. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope it was insightful. Tune in for the next episode. We'll talk about some of the major reasons for divorce. Thank you for listening to the Oxendine Law Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you did, please make sure that you subscribe, join the show, submit your questions. We'll answer them on the next podcast. We're available on all major platforms, so be sure to subscribe. And remember, at Oxendine Law, we play to win.